What is up, everybody? Today I have with me a very special guest. He is a prominent member of the Jailbreak community. He is a tester, a modeler, and most notably, the owner of the Jailbreak DeLorean fan account. Please welcome Happy Hongo.
Hello.
Hey man, I'm glad to
Hello.
have you here.
Yes, it's nice.
Yes, I hope you like my beautiful interview studio and we have a good view of the Jailbreak city, as we can see.
It's very beautiful and very professional.
Yes, thank you. So, my first question to you is, when did you first start playing Jailbreak, and what initially attracted you to the game?
Well, I could say I played it like the first week of release. I used to be very addicted to Prison Life, which was like the jailbreak of them.
Oh yeah.
And Jailbreak came out, and the first time I think I played it like on the first day it came out, I got really confused and I didn't like the game. And I think I just called it like a Prison Life copy back then, right? But then I
Yeah.
gave it another try, and then I saw, wait, this is better because it had like the whole criminal thing going on. So I just switched from Prison Life and started playing Jailbreak.
So, what are your thoughts on the current state of the game, and how do you think it can be improved?
Well, Jailbreak has quite some issues. Well,
Yes.
quite a lot. But I think the main problem is just, to put it shortly, it's just the visions the developer have with working for updates and stuff. They always put schedules on themselves, which limit updates a lot because sometimes we find bugs or we suggest like quality of life changes, because I'm a tester, and there's no time for them because they're always like on a rush following a schedule, and that just limits so many things. They
Oh.
see Jailbreak like as a work instead of a passion project or something. Sometimes it just feels like they don't really like updating the game that often.
So, shifting over to the community itself, what are your favorite and least favorite aspects of the Jailbreak community?
I guess the positive thing is that they like my stuff. I guess. I'm not sure. I'm not really like big in the community. I always try to just stay with my group of friends and not really
Mm.
see much as I used to. I know that back then with the whole Twitter thing, I was more in the community. But yeah. And as for bad, least favorite thing, I would say is just how it's always controversial when it comes to community creations. Like, oh, this should have won and all that. Like,
Yeah.
it's always fighting and all that crap. Like, whatever. In the end, season prices aren't really super important to the developers. Like, they just go for whatever has the most votes and fits the season theme, or they like it. Like, they don't really put that much thought into it. They don't care. Oh, it has copyright, or it's over the limit, or it's rushed. They don't really care about that.
Mm. So now we're gonna talk about the days of JBDelorean. So, what gave you the push to start a Twitter account devoted to like campaigning for it to be added?
That's a funny question. It was something really small, I guess. Back then, I used to be younger and I had more free time. I would talk a lot in the Jailbreak Discord back then. And we were just talking about like what the next 1 million vehicle could be, because when I made that account, there were only 3 1 million vehicles, the ones we always had. So I was like, what if it was a DeLorean? And some guy like the Back to the Future one, I'm like, sure, it could fly, and I don't know, that sounds unique, right? Flying car. I was like, what if I start a movement? And he said, sure, go for it. And I just made the account just like that. Well, it just started getting followers, and that's when it became like sort of a bigger thing for me.
Yeah.
And I remember back then, a lot of people hated me.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, I
And,
remember like username was getting annoyed and stuff.
well, I just found that funny because
Yeah.
I don't know. I never took it as something that big. Like I didn't really use Twitter back then, so it was just like easy for me to just not care. It was like people got mad, like sure, whatever.
Yeah. I guess, what was your reaction to your account gaining so much popularity and being recognized by so many famous people like Dat Brian username, and even the developers themselves were starting to acknowledge you?
Well, I think that the first big shout out I got was from user where he like slightly mentioned me in one of the videos.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my account started getting more and more recognition, and then I think Asimo made like the tweets saying that even his mom known me or something. I mean, knew me. Yeah, that was a fun tweet, but I don't know. It started becoming like too big, and I always talked about it with friends, like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Is he gonna add it or not? I'm not sure. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It was confusing but exciting at the same time.
How did you feel? Like, what was your reaction to finally having the DeLorean added in game?
Well, it was. I think my reaction is out there. Uh, I screamed a lot in that video, but it was. I don't know. It felt really, really nice just because the developers took their time to make this like a small addition to Winter Update that just resembled me and the whole community in general. Because it wasn't only me, of course. It was like the followers asking for it and helping me or whatever.
Yeah.
So it just felt like a victory for the community that day.
Yeah, it was. And in a way, it was like one of the first community creations, even though, like the devs themselves designed it. Like, it was
Yeah,
still something that the fans were asking for so long, and then they finally added it to the game, so that was cool.
absolutely.
So how do you feel about the whole DeLorean movement, like 2 years later? Because we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of it being added. Has your thoughts on it, like, changed at all?
I certainly don't regret it, but I haven't. I think it's nice, but I haven't seen any similar thing happen like with the game yet, which sucks. All I've seen is negativity, I guess, because of the same problems about seasons and whatever.
Yeah,
I wish the community would start more positive movements, even if it's for something as silly as a car or whatever. I don't know. I think the community should be more united and stop fighting because in the end, that doesn't really solve anything.
do you ever plan on, like, designing a DeLorean model yourself and then maybe submitting it to Jailbreak Creations?
I mean, I could say that the version we have right now hasn't aged well. I don't know. Like, it was the first model with opening doors and whatever, but I don't know. It's starting to show its age, so probably one of these days or something, I might do something.
Now let's talk about your modeling career. When did you first start modeling, and what was the learning process like?
Well, I learned it because of a friend called Mace. He he's also one in Jailbreak, but he taught me basically everything. My first models were not good. They were not good. It took time, but I like modeling just because I don't know. I like cars, and I always wanted to learn more about them. Modeling really helps you learn more about the cars you like because just start noticing all the lines and the effort that goes into making them, all that stuff. You just appreciate the details more, I guess.
How did it feel getting creations added to the game at a more frequent pace? I think first you got your chair added, and then you
Yes.
started getting more stuff like the DeLorean spoiler. How did it feel getting more stuff added, basically?
Well, to me, it just showed like progress. I started becoming a more consistent modeler because I remember back then I would post like some good submission and then some bad ones.
Yeah,
But I feel like right now I reached a point where everything I make is at least decent.
yeah, definitely.
it's it's what I'm happy about.
So, what was the process of designing the crown and the final phase vehicles, and how did you react to them getting added to the game?
Oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. For the Requiem, I I just started thinking. Well, it's a villain season, and we already knew that it was going to be related with the boss and all that jank. So my
Hmm.
whole process of thinking was, what would he drive? What would the boss drive, right?
Yeah,
And well, we already know how the NPCs look. They have the suits on and all that tactical stuff. So I just imagined the boss would be some classy guy and stuff. So
yeah.
that's why I started looking for classic looking vehicles. And the wrecking is based off a Rolls Royce Phantom 1, but I modified it to look more villainy and stuff, which I think that was the most fun part of it, because sometimes when you do vehicles, it's just following blueprints,
Yeah.
follow lines, and then the vehicle looks good, and that's nice. But with the wrecking, I had to open outside of the box and try many design choices, adding spikes here, there, and just see what would look the best. And I'm pretty happy with the final result. It just looks like a super sleek vehicle for me. And well, as for the final phase, that was a joke I had with Shadow. Um, the whole okay. So I don't know if you remember last season, but I made a mech.
Yeah, I
A whole
remember. I
mech.
covered that one. Yeah, the military mech.
Yes, so I just made that because everyone was making like super overpowered stuff. I remember the Annihilator and stuff. Everything was overpowered in that season, man. So I was like talking with Shadow, and I said, "Well, if they want overpower, I'll make something overpowered." And I made a whole match. It had miniguns and the tank trails.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It got a lot of support, which was expected, I guess. It's just how this community works. But then this season, I was just pretty bored, and I just told Shadow maybe I should just do like another of these overpowered and super outside of the box concepts. So I wanted just to make another robot, and the main inspiration for the final phase, I'd say, was Dr. Call, like the boss in Cuphead, because that boss, well, the final phase, it's basically like the head and scientist, and it's just attacking you with some gems. So I just kind of switched that into Jailbreak and started working with that. Well, the day where I got the message that I won, it was pretty surreal. I literally just woke up from a nap and I saw the notifications, and I thought something small like the boss test would win, because I was pretty confident in that one. But then I opened it and it said the wrecking and the final phase. I was like, what? Two vehicles?
Yeah, two vehicles. Getting one is already pretty crazy, but getting two in the same update.
Yeah, I could not believe it. I thought it was some joke message from someone else, because we also do that between friends. You sending fake winning messages sometimes. But no, it was from a C1. I don't know. I was pretty speechless. I couldn't believe it, but it was pretty nice.
I guess, what's your reaction to the community reception? Have you taken a look at what people think of the two vehicles that are being added to the game?
Oh yes, I've seen. Well, I'm sure people love the wrecking. I've seen that for sure. They say
Yeah.
it's a good-looking vehicle. It's slick and all that stuff. For the final phase, though, I've seen quite the opinions.
Yeah.
Some
I'm
people hate
surprised.
it for some reason. I
Yeah.
find it funny because it's a joke, right? It's
Yeah.
just like whatever.
So, what has been your favorite creation that you have ever made?
Reaper bike. That's my favorite creation. I didn't even use blueprints for that. That was all in my imaginations and looking at references. It
Yeah.
took me whole weeks to even design that. I started thinking and seeing a lot of images, and I created the Reaper bike slowly, and I even made some lore for it, but it's just a lot of fun. I didn't put any restrictions of myself with that one. I just went all out. I hope that gets added someday. It's just my favorite concept I've made ever.
Now let's shift over to your work as a jailbreak tester. What was the process like of being chosen as a jailbreak tester, and what kind of tasks do you usually do?
Well, as for being chosen, that was back in the trading update, so it was this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Badimo was just looking for more testers because trading was such a big update. So they needed everything to be perfect. They needed more opinions, I guess. And yeah, it was pretty sudden. There was like no invitation or anything. It was just the testers suggesting people they knew. So I just
Really?
happened to
Wow.
be, yes, I happened to be known by most testers. So they were like, oh yeah, just put Hongo. We know that guy. He's trusted and all that stuff. So I got at it. As for what we do, well, I don't know. I think a lot of people have a lot of views and perceptions on what we do, but it's just bug fixing and bug finding. It's just like we see a bug, we report it, and yeah, the devs fix it. That's mostly it. We just play unplayable versions of the updates that go out in the public.
Wow.
Yeah, most of the time, a lot of stuff breaks, and we just have to wait until it's fixed. And then when it's fixed, a new problem appears, and pretty messy.
Do you have like any major accomplishments of being a jailbreak tester that you're proud of?
Fixing gun spamming, I guess.
Oh, that was your contribution? That's awesome, dude. That was such a big problem the game had.
Yeah, I think the fix came along with the trade up there. Well, it was around those months, but basically, I made like a huge message saying why gun spam was a problem and how annoying it was for new players and all around, blah blah blah. And I think it was Crit who helped us the most with fixing gun spam. The thing I like about Crit is that he is probably the only developer that is a gamer in the Batimo team. Like he actually
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
he has knowledge with games and all stuff.
Oh, look at this. Look who's parachuting.
Well, so he understand what I told to him, right? I think the current like meta and all how guns work, it's just more healthy.
I just want to say thank you so much for finally dealing with that.
Yeah, it had to be solved eventually.
Yeah. So now we're going to move over to the mailbag segment. I asked my followers and subscribers to send in a few questions to ask you, and I found a few good ones. So the first question is from Is Toxicity, and he asks, is it fun being a jailbreak tester?
Well, it's fun most of the times when the update is like about to get like shown into the public, updated and stuff. It's fun because we just have that time to mess around and finally enjoy updates, and sometimes Asimo hops in, so that's fun.
Yeah.
But there's the other side where it's like the beginning of testing and it's just bug finding, everything's messy, and it's really chory. Yes, it takes time.
Usually how long before the updates come out does Asimo ask you guys to test it?
That's pretty controversial, but he does not give us enough time.
Oh.
He does not. That's probably something I'll talk more about later, but that would be in another day, you know.
Yeah. So, Shadow Samurai asks an amazing question. He says, thoughts on femboys?
Love him. That's all.
Amazing. And then The Quack asks, what is your favorite jailbreak update?
Oh wow, I haven't. Oh, that's a good one. Well, probably any of the big old updates, such as the older live events or
Yeah.
the new gun system. Those updates were amazing, and I think that was the peak of jailbreak. That was, yeah. None of the new updates can really top the feeling of that.
So, do you have any advice for aspiring jailbreak modelers?
As for modeling, it's just practice. Like, nobody has the talent or don't believe in any of that. Nobody was born privileged in making models. That would be pretty weird. All of us creators, like even the most controversial ones, like Sharky Cat and all that, we all put practice and hours into what we do. If you want to achieve that, if you want to have your own vehicle in jailbreak, you have to keep trying and trying. And as for thinking, just make something that is flashy enough and that fits the team. Like, people sometimes make vehicles that are really just too common to win. Like, you can make the most detailed model ever you want, but if it's just like a random SUV or just a car, like random sedan, it's not gonna win.
Yeah.
As good as it is, models don't win, ideas do. That's just how it is.
Yeah, that's a great point for sure. So, what are your plans for the future? Do you have like any goals in the jailbreak space or maybe the modeling space that you're trying to accomplish?
Well, as for jailbreak itself, I think, well, I don't know. I'm not really in touch with the community anymore as I used to. I don't really talk in GBMS or jailbreak or whatever. or even
Mhm.
Twitter. I don't tweet as much. Um, it's just because mostly school. It's just taking more and more time from me and
Yeah.
real life stuff, you know.
Hmm.
But what I would like to do is just leave a positive impact on the community. Um, that's why I always want to talk about the problems, because people, when they talk about jailbreak problems, it's like nobody has a grasp idea on what the problem truly is. People just say, "Oh, we need more robberies," or "It's just the toxic players that ruin everything." Like, sure, those are bad things, but that's not really the root of all the problems. And
Yeah.
me, I've already looked at how the developers work, at how all the process is done. Like, I've looked at basically how an update is made from beginning to finish, and that's why I can say I have um, a bigger understanding of what the problems truly are, such as, the schedule I mentioned.
And then I guess for my final question, is there anything at all that you'd like to promote?
Um, not really. Yeah, I'm not. Well, I am working on some side projects outside of Jailbreak, but I cannot say much yet. Probably around
Okay.
next year. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just other projects that people will see eventually. There's no need to hype anything right now.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure to stay tuned for that. So, yeah, that's going to conclude my interview with Jailbreak DeLorean, aka Happy Hongo. Thank you so much for talking to me today. I really enjoyed our conversation. If you want to see more from Jailbreak DeLorean, I know he was a bit hesitant to promote his profiles, so I'm going to do it for him. Make sure to go subscribe to his YouTube channel, Happy Hongo, and make sure to follow him on his Twitter accounts, Jailbreak DeLorean, and his personal account, Happy Hongo or Mango Majesty. Thank you so much again for talking to me. Really enjoyed it, and I hope you continue to have a great career in the jailbreak community.
Thanks. I appreciate the talk too. It was pretty nice.